Hey you guys, it's Lauren. Welcome back to Lauren's Honest Reviews, where I review popular books and let you know if these books are actually worth your time. Now today's video is going to be a little different. We're going to do a ranking video on one of my favorite authors. We're going to rank 5 of Kristin Hannah's most popular books. I just finished up The Great Alone and The Nighting Gale. I had some thoughts, so I figured this would be the perfect timing to film this video. So Kristin Hannah, like I said, has quickly become one of my most favorite authors, and she really makes me read more historical fiction. I devoured all her books, and these are intimidating looking books. They're very lengthy, but I cannot believe how quickly I went through these books. That's the one thing about Kristin Hannah. Her writing is so readable. She just makes you want to keep on reading. Her writing is so addicting. But the first book we're going to talk about, should we start on the downer side? Yeah, we'll start with number 5. My least favorite by her, I think it was the third book I read by her, was The Winter Garden. Now, this is an older publication. I think it was released in 2012, but people are still talking about this book. People love this book, but I have to say, it was my least favorite. So this is the story of Nina and Meredith. They're two sisters. They kind of have opposite lives. The one sister is running the family's apple orchard, and the other sister is off traveling. But they end up coming together because their parents are elderly. Their father ends up passing away. No spoilers here. This happens in the beginning of the book. And then they're grappling with the decision of putting the mother in a home or keeping her at home as she's dealing with, I think she has Alzheimer's. But the mother has this very cold personality. She was always disconnected with her girls growing up. So the whole book is essentially the story of her reconnection with her daughters. And the way this is accomplished is throughout the book, the mother actually retells this fairy tale story that she's always told the girls, and the girls keep asking her to retell this fantasy story. And throughout the book, I think this is why I didn't really love this book, because honestly, I think it was about like 40% of the book is all about this story. So you're just rereading this fantasy story. And I'm not a big fantasy reader, so those of you that do enjoy fantasy might like this. But I just felt like I couldn't get into the story. And the whole book is kind of a downer. It's about grieving your parents. So it's not the most uplifting book, but typical Kristin Hannah, she does tie all the pieces together in the ending so well. The ending is beautiful. I was so satisfied with the ending. So that is why I did give this book a 3.75 stars. Wasn't quite a 4 for me just because of the boring parts that kind of drug out for me. And also hearing about the mother's life. So a lot of her life is revealed throughout this retelling of the story. And it is, wow, so heavy. Her books are heavy, but this is probably the heaviest book by her that I've read. It was just pretty hard to read. So again, the ending was a gorgeous ending in true Kristin Hannah fashion, but I just didn't really enjoy this book. Like, I didn't want to pick it up. I'm like, all right, I got to finish this book, but it was kind of a drag, honestly, each time I picked it up. But I did love the ending. The ending was beautiful. 3.75 stars. You can get this on Kindle Unlimited right now for free if you have a Kindle membership. All right, so next up on the list, number 4, The Nighting Gale. May surprise some of you that this is lower on the list, but I did have such a good time with the middle to end of this book. 50% of the way in, I really got into this, and I could not turn the pages quicker. Like, I had such a good time with this read. Well, good time is a stretch because a lot of the parts are, again, hard to read, depressing parts, but it wasn't as traumatic as I thought this book would be. I thought I would cry a lot more. The ending got me though. Like, a lot of big traumas happen in the middle of the book, and I'm like, wow, I'm not crying yet. I'm not crying. And then I get to the end, and oh my gosh, what happens in the end is, I could cry right now thinking about it. Like, it's one of the most touching books I've read, but to get to that point was a struggle for me. So the beginning of the book was a lot more plot driven. It wasn't exactly character focused, and I think that's why, again, with this book too, my mind would drift off because I just didn't find a connection with the two sisters at the beginning of the book. It's essentially the story of two sisters during World War II in Nazi-occupied France. So you hear their struggles going through the war, and also the journey to making an impact during the war, and it is insane what both of these sisters go through, the traumas that they go through, the bravery that they have in this book. Oh my gosh, both of these sisters are just so courageous that my jaw was dropped almost the entire time because I just could not get over what these two sisters went through. But again, at the beginning of the book, I just did not feel that connection. And there was a couple points in this where it does focus a little bit on their romantic relationships, but I couldn't get into there wasn't any chemistry for me with the romantic relationships in this book. So I think that's why the connection was a little lost for me. But the ending, again, gorgeous ending. A lot of trauma in this book, so it's another heavy book, but I did really like it. I gave it a 4-star, but it's further down on the list. It just took me a while to get into. Number 3 on the list this was hard. 1 to 3 was definitely hard because these are all some of my most favorite books. But next up, number 3 on the list is Kristin Hannah, The 4 Winds. This was so good. These next 3 books I could not put down. The Winter Garden and the Nighting Gale, it was a little struggle for each of those for me to pick them back up, but The 4 Winds was, again, I keep saying that word, readable, but there's something about Kristin Hannah's writing that just makes you want to keep on reading. She does such a good job with her plots and the different conflicts, and oh man, it just really keeps you engaged. I just love this book so much. The 4 Winds is about the Great Depression, and it's the story of a family of farmers, and they go through a lot at the beginning of the book. You have your rebellious teen, forbidden love, lots of juicy things at the beginning of this book. I feel like a story about the Great Depression doesn't exactly sound like a juicy read, but wow, this really pulled me in. And then as the story unfolds, you find out more about Elsa. She's the mother in this book. She has to go on this journey to essentially get her family out of poverty because her whole family business, which is the farm, is falling apart because of the Dust Bowl. And she has to travel across the country to California to essentially make a better life for her family. But yeah, all the different events that happen as they're traveling, the events that unfold when they get to California, this was just such an interesting read. And again, another female heroine in this book. Elsa is amazing. Each of these female leads, they're all so resilient and brave, and you will fall in love with Elsa. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this book has my heart. Oh, so good. The way Elsa sticks up for her family, just everything about this. One of my favorite books of all time. Why didn't I don't think I gave this book a 5-star just because I was comparing it to my most favorite by Kristin Hannah, but I gave this 4.5 stars. Such a must read. Oh my gosh. If you're into historical fiction, you'll learn a lot about the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression. Really interesting read, but will keep you guessing the entire time and will just keep you just so engaged the whole time. This is such a good book. Love this. All right. Number 2 on the list, a 5-star read for me. One of my favorite books of all time. The Great Alone is number 2 on the list. This was such an amazing book. I loved everything about this, everything. You will go through all the emotions reading this. You're gonna feel tense at times, you're gonna cry, you're gonna be happy, you're just all the things. This is, oh man, it really pulls at your heartstrings, but in the best way possible. But it's essentially the story of a family making a homestead on the Alaskan frontier. The dad is kind of almost a doomsdayer kind of a personality. He suffers from mental illness as well. He was a former prisoner of war during the Vietnam War. So his mental state is kind of up and down. So the family is dealing with not only trying to survive on the frontier, but they're also trying to survive in their own home. I love the young love aspect in this as well. I didn't really know much about that part of the book. I thought it was mainly about, living on the Alaskan frontier, but oh man, the young love in this book is so mature the way it's explained, and she just writes the teenage emotion so well in this book. You really feel a connection to Lenny, the daughter, and also the mother too. Oh my gosh, their relationship in this, it will pull at your heartstrings. It's going to melt your heart. But it's an important story about the power of community too, how the community in this Alaskan frontier all look out for each other. And it's such a good, powerful story. I love this so much. One of my favorite books. You have to read The Great Alone. It is a must read, I'm telling you. Oh my God, amazing. But yeah, between The 4 Winds and The Great Alone, this was a toss up, but Great Alone, I feel like a little bit more happened in this plot, and it just had me hooked a little bit more than The 4 Winds did. But yeah, number 2 on my list has to go to The Great Alone. And then number 1 on the list, believe it or not, I do not have a physical copy of this book. I read it on Libby, so you can get it for free. Hopefully if your library has copies on Libby available. I got this as an instant download on an e-reader, so that's how I read this book, but I need to get a copy because I will definitely reread The Woman. The Woman is my most favorite book. I feel like I keep saying my most favorite book, but The Woman has to be probably my favorite book of all time. I had such a connection to this story. I don't know if it's because about being a nurse and the connection to the healthcare side of this book, but I loved everything about this book. So this is the story of Frankie. She's a nurse in the Vietnam War. She comes from this privileged family in California, and she just wants something more out of her life. She wants to do something more meaningful with her career. So she decides to enlist in the army. And the things that she goes through over in Vietnam was difficult to read. A lot of these scenes are definitely heavy. You have to have a strong stomach too. A lot of very like graphic scenes. But oh, man, everything that they went through over there just really, you just can't. Same thing with the Nighting Gale. It's just unimaginable, the things that happen in history. But again, which is why these books are so important, because these things did happen and it's important to retell these stories. But what Frankie goes through over there and the relationships she develops with both friendships and romantic relationships. Honestly, I think the female relationships were almost stronger than the love interest in this book. So if you love stories about female friendships, I think you'll love this book. But yeah, how Frankie's girlfriends come together for her, and then the love interest in this book. Oh my gosh, I can't really say much about it because it will give it away. There's a couple love interests in this, but there's one that keeps coming back, and oh my gosh, the ending of this book, I will never forget this ending. I'll never forget Frankie and her resilience and her bravery and just everything about her. I want this to be made into a movie so bad. I know the Nighting Gale is coming out, I think they said 2026, so that'll be exciting. But The Woman definitely deserves a screenplay. That would be such an amazing movie. My husband loves all these war movies, and I could never get into them. I just find that, I don't know, they're very male driven, and there's not a lot of female representation in them, and they're sad and depressing. But I feel like The Woman was such a good, powerful story, and there were so many like good, lighthearted moments in it as well. I feel like it would be such a good movie. But yeah, The Woman has to be my favorite book of all time, and my favorite book by Kristin Hannah. Loved it so much, and I need to get a physical copy. What am I doing with my life? I just saw that there was one on I think on Facebook Marketplace. I just saw one for $5, so I have to go ahead and pick that up. Hopefully it's a local pickup. But yeah, great story. Loved it. I would love to know from you guys, what was your favorite book by Kristin Hannah? There's so many good ones out there. Are there any other older releases that you loved by her that I should read? True Colors I have on my shelf, and I also have Firefly Lane on my shelf, but I have yet to read both of those. I watched the Firefly Lane show. There was a Netflix show with Katherine Heigl? I think Katherine Heigl was the main character. Great story, but I feel like, I don't know. Once I watched the TV show first, and I'm like, is it worth the read? But I don't know. That's kind of how I felt with Big Little Lies. And then I love that book so much. That book was so much better than this show. But yeah, that's it for me here today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys love from Kristin Hannah, your favorite books by her, your least favorite by her. And you can totally tell me off in the comments for calling Nighting Gale boring, but I just didn't have the connection with Vianne and Isabel, the two sisters at the beginning of the book. It was so plot heavy to me, and I'm just like, all right, this is the story about what's going on in the war. Yes, it was interesting, but I needed more of the characters' reflections and what they were going through at the time, and I was just missing that connection part. But I would love to hear from you guys, your favorites and fails by Kristin Hannah. But this was a fun video to do. Let me know if you would like any other author-focused ranking videos. I did another one on Emily Henry, which was fun, so let me know. But thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye, guys.